Charles. B-Rock.
It's
Finally,
great
the title.
That's good. That really is good. And what a diminished individual we have in this man. I mean, he walked on water, literally, in November of 2008. And right away he wins. And it was a very special moment in American history, actually, for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
And it could have been a positive, transformative experience.
Change.
You think about that, 2008 is what...
15 years ago?
Well, no, it's not that. Compared to 1960, it's 43 years after, 45 years after Civil Rights Act and the Voting Act or whatever. And, to see somebody who actually did, I would argue, though I loathe his politics and I loathe his national security approach, and I think Obamacare is a disaster,
Yep.
and most everything the guy touched turned to shit in his presidency.
But other than that, Mrs. Lincoln.
But he's better than Biden.
Right.
He sucks, but he's better than Biden. Anyway, I have to say I was in Kuwait, actually, watching the election. Not in Kuwait, just watching on television the election results. I happened to be in Kuwait on my way to India and staying with some friends. And I said, this is really rather amazing to see this person.
Historic.
Really, on paper, he ran, or somebody ran a good campaign.
I think it was Adam Sharp.
Well, whoever did it did a good job. But somebody ran a great campaign, and he gave there were some excellent speeches along the way and thoughts along the way, and he seemed to handle himself in the middle of an epic disaster created by W. Bush and his fart-faced family, with the unregulated globalism and the debt crisis and the spending crisis and the endless wars. He seemed to have some promise.
Right.
Until the Inauguration Day speech, when he basically was like, well, I did mention that I had these great ideas. I think what I'm going to do is hire McKinsey, and my people here, my Treasury Secretary will tell you about our tax policy, and my Defense Secretary, and I'll be out there, smoking a lot of weed and going to parties.
Crack.
I mean, it was just like...
Smoking crack.
Busy. Yeah, smoking crack. Jay and Silent Bob.
That would be worthwhile, going back and watching Obama's inauguration speech. I must admit, I'm not sure that I've ever actually listened to it or watched it, but we've absolutely got to address these allegations from Tucker Carlson and Larry Sinclair. It's mostly from Larry Sinclair, just conveyed through Tucker Carlson. And these are the same things that Sinclair has been saying for like 25 years.
And it was Beau Biden who arrested Larry Sinclair after he came forward.
Now, do you remember that happening? Because I've been looking for that, and I haven't been able to find too much document. That's amazing.
Yeah, but again.
But before we move off of that point, Charles, don't you think that's, now that we know that Joe Biden is into going to the Council on Foreign Relations and explaining to them how tough he is, telling them, hey, you're not going to get the $1 billion unless you fire this guy, seems like that's what he's into doing, like putting leverage on people, pressuring people into doing things.
Well, I think, to the extent that people are going to speak English and care about what happened in America in the future, which I hope they will, but there's
an
a
open
possibility.
question right now.
There's certainly a question mark at the moment, thanks to the Manchurian president we have, who seems to have sold out our interests to many different foreign entities and maybe countries. I think I certainly have spent time since 2008, and say a lot of time since 2015, re-examining what I thought was the truth. And going back over that ground and saying, now, wait a minute, I hadn't considered this, I hadn't considered that. And globalism at surface level sounded like a great idea. You're going from countryism to the whole earth. I mean,
Right.
And so, in theory, the potential, it should be better. I mean, there's more there than just in one country. So it sounds good. Until you think about some other essential truths. And one of them is that a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And if 80% of the countries are all corrupt,
right,
chances are a country that was leaning towards being corrupt, or maybe was already corrupt, is going to be epically corrupt, which is, I think, what's happened in this country.
Yeah.
And so to bring it back a little bit to home, people know that I was traveling and I came back. And I'm not going to say where I go, but I like to go and get some coffee in the morning just gets me out of the house, and I have a routine. I don't always go at the same time, but there's a very nice, and I'm not going to say which one it is, but it's a very nice diner. It used to be open 24/7. I mean, not diner, deli, 24/7.
Not open 24 anymore.
Well, you're stepping on my story.
Well, you said it used to be.
Okay,
I'm asking.
all right. You're leaping ahead. You're reading my mind. Anyway, so I go there this morning. What?
You said it.
I know.
I'm just listening.
I don't know. So I go there this morning, and I won't say what time. It normally would have been open, and it wasn't. So I go to another one, and as I'm going to the other one, I'm walking down the avenue, and I'm noticing there's a cop car there with two people texting.
The cops texting.
Texting inside the car,
Yes.
not bothering to get out. There's a subway stop, and there are these aggressive beggars, filthy beggars, at the top of the stairs. And the problem with the subway, when you exit, the stairs are pretty steep.
Right.
So if you're going up and you've got somebody hunched over you, hey man, give me some money, you need to think about the idea that if they're not happy, they might push you back down the stairs.
And come get the money.
Right, and then take everything of yours. Anyway, so there are three of them. There's two other people nearby trying to figure out, do they join the scrum and make it 5-1, on people coming up. There's this raving lunatic who lives in front of a store. She puts all her garbage, I believe it's a woman, puts all her garbage around her. She's gesticulating, walking down the street. So I go down the avenue, I turn left down another street, and I see to my shock, there are 4 homeless people under the scaffolding shooting up, and they all happen to be African American men, but I don't care what gender they are, what race they are, whatever. This is a shit show already, right? So then I go back for my second cup of coffee to the deli I prefer, and there's a really nice guy. It's not
Some might say you're a glutton for punishment.
Well, this is where the story gets interesting. So I come in, and there's this Indian guy, and who owns the store, and I'm not going to try to do his accent, but I said, what's going on? There's police everywhere, because I noticed other police and police on my block, trying to get these encampment of beggars on another block to leave the stoop of a townhouse down the street. I said, what is going on with this stuff? It's going crazy. He said, sir, you don't know that half of it. So what are you talking about? I said, we had people come into our store last night, he said, and just start throwing shit off the shelves.
Why?
It took an hour for the cops to show up.
Wow.
And he said that when the cops showed up, they said, listen, did you lose more than $1,000 to the owner? And the guy said, no, but I had some real damage. He said, we're not going to fill out a report unless you lose more than $1,000. This is what the guy says to me. Then he shows me a video of another liquor store. I don't know if it was in New York City, but literally a guy walking in, a thug, just going for no reason, not stealing, just knocking the shit because he's had a tough life.
But you'd think they'd want the booze. I understand stealing booze.
But it's getting better. It's getting. So I'm just shaking my head and I'm saying, well, I mean, this is crazy. And he said, yeah, you're right. What's really crazy is if I, the owner, make a big deal, they'll put me in jail. And it'll cost me $18,000, he said, to get back out of jail. And that's when he looked at me without knowing my politics or anything. And that's why I'm for Trump. It was classic.
But he's right, Charles.
Oh, I
mean,
know.
That's what happened. I get choked by a stranger on the street. What are you going to do other than call the cops?
Right.
And they come and give me a ticket. And now there's assholes around the internet who are probably watching right now who say, oh, disorderly conduct, and show the ticket.
Right. Well, so the point here is...
That's George's brother,
yeah,
the one I'm giving the finger to.
Yeah. So, but the point here is I told the guy, I didn't say that I don't want to name the deli for obvious reasons, but I told him I would be talking about it on the podcast. I gave him the name of the podcast.
Is he watching?
I don't know if he's watching
Hello,
or not.
deli owner.
But he's a decent guy. I think he's owned this place for a long time. He goes back to India periodically. We have pleasant chats, but he didn't know my politics. And it's taking, in where I live, if you assume somebody's conservative, you
usually
are stupid. Because there's nobody. They stay with.
But obviously that's a guy who's been pushed to the point where he just doesn't care.
Well, I said to him, are you going to just shut this place down? And he said, did the Indian, I don't know. But
obviously he doesn't want to. That's his business.
Well, he's at an age where he could just take his capital and go back to India and live well.
Wow.
But you know,
But you said that it used to be open 24, so now it's not because it's obviously more dangerous overnight.
Because
But that's one of the things, when I was dividing my time between New York and Los Angeles, there were a number of things where I would be frustrated. Like if you needed to send something by FedEx, LA sucks. And New York, I used to be able to go to that thing that's now Hudson Yards, which is like, that was like the trading floor of the stock exchange. Go in that FedEx office at 9:28 p.m. Everybody's in there yelling, packages going, and whatever. But you could get stuff out to Europe the next day, 10 o'clock at night, or 9:30, something like that. Nowhere else could you do that. Sure. And it was 24-hour this, and nice restaurants open until 1 or 2. All of that is off the table.
So then this is this is turning into Charles's daily routine show. But you know, the other I moved to a new place and settling in, and you know I'm not really accustomed to cleaning my own place and vacuuming here and there. So I started trying to vacuum my. What's that?
Keep going, and I'll tell you this next. We've got comments.
So I'm trying to vacuum my place, and suddenly the vacuum cleaner shuts down. I'm like, why would that happen? I didn't turn it off. It's, maybe the bag is full. Yeah. How do I open the vacuum cleaner? Where is the bag? Anyway, I figured that out, and sure enough, it's full. And so I said, okay, how do I get some vacuum cleaner bags? I figured I'd just go to the local hardware store. No, we don't have them.
Closed.
So they said, try Target. So Target is, good.
Where 25. Is Target?
It's down on, we walk by it actually. It's
like Astor Place or something.
No, south. Broadway and West Houston. So for me, it's not that far. Anyway, so I walk all the way down in there thinking I'll be shown the vacuum cleaner section of Target. And the guy, the greeter or whatever, the concierge at Target, he looks
at me.
The
maitre d'?
Yeah, he says, we don't do vacuum cleaner bags.
Oh.
I said, well, thanks for fucking nothing. I mean, I came all the way down here. You don't even have an effort to. Anyway, so I then get on the subway to go up to Home Depot, and that was an experience. Every time I go into that place, which is not too frequently, I'll ask for something, and I think the person at the top, who tells you what aisle to go to, they just make shit up.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
Try aisle 61.
There's one guy at that Home Depot who knows anything.
Yeah, but so anyway, I go down to 61. It's not the right one, 59, 65. And I end up, my bad, I walk right past this display of vacuum cleaner bags, but there weren't that many different brands, and I didn't see my brand. So eventually I end up back there, and I said, oh yeah, they have your brand over here. How many bags do you want? I said, I'll take everything. Every single thing. I felt guilty bags. For a while because maybe somebody else in New York won't be able to get any bags, but it was ridiculous. We're down to the Soviet Union level in these stores. Yeah. Right? They don't have your shit. They're not open when they're supposed to be open. What's the argument for being in New York City? I mean, it used to be convenience, safety,
access to stuff.
You're at the front lines of fashion and current affairs. You meet all these interesting people. There's a lot of bullshit. I mean, there's more action in the chimpanzee cage in Central Park Zoo.
It's safer, too.
Yeah, it is.
You get less feces thrown at you.
Maybe not.
Yeah. It's terrible, Charles.
So you said the comments or something?
Right. Well, Sparkmeister was telling us that crime is terrible in the Bay Area and that one of Sparkmeister's neighbors had somebody trying to kick the door open in the middle of the day.
I know. It's just, well, and it's funny, I've done a number of interesting interviews in the last week. One of them was with that friend, George, of our the accountant, George is it Fernandez, I think.
Oh, right, yes. The friend of Bob Bishop.
With the great Bob Bishop, yes. Bob, they were kind enough to ask me on to do a radio hit, which I did. And I did actually just a hit this morning, for the first time ever, Jason, without calling you. I managed to figure out how to use my phone.
That's good.
To videotape me answering a question.
Excellent, Charles.
And I did it in one take.
I'm very pleased.
And it's going to some Middle Eastern show tomorrow, because, of course, tomorrow is September 11th.
Oh, right. Wait. Oh, damn it. I thought it was Tuesday. It is tomorrow. Oh, I got to call Shepard because we're planning on doing a September 11th show. We'll just do his show on Monday. Yeah. Charles, we've got a lot to talk about today. We're going to be doing the majority of the discussion in the First Amendment forum. So I hope that people will join us on odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth. I'm encouraging people to join there because it makes George's brother particularly crazy. They are very focused on free speech, and he likes to threaten and intimidate these platforms and try to get them to stop doing business with me and stuff. So if you're not yet a sponsor, consider odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth. It's the most economical way for people to become sponsors of Crowdsource the Truth and to help me counteract these incredibly malicious social engineers who have been just on me for 6.5 years. It's pathetic. The guy's a mental case, but people can also sponsor the show on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth. My second favorite, and I don't even want to say they're my second favorite. Subscribestar has been very good to this show and to me, and the people that run it are working hard and also support free speech. So Subscribestar is a great way to sponsor. Patreon, I have to thank the people who sponsor on Patreon and Patreon itself. But I think they're going to run into some problems, Charles, because there's sort of this medium tech platform that's kind of trying to adhere to all of the stuff that is stymieing the Facebooks and the Twitters of the world. But they really are a small tech kind of platform, and they haven't been giving our sponsors the type of technical support that Subscribestar gives and that Odyssey gives. So I want to thank all of the people that make the show possible and encourage people to check out Odyssey and Subscribestar if they want to join us today in the First Amendment forum. I know you got a lot of stuff you want to talk about, Charles. Where should we go first with this?
Well, now or are we?
We still have 10 minutes, so sure.
Yeah, let's take a few seconds and talk about an institute that was in the news, which I think they misnomered it or misnamed it. I think the real name of it is Check My Ass Institute, but it's Check My Ads Institute. And this is actually, we'll in the First Amendment forum, we'll get into some detail. This is technically a charity, and we're going to, in real time, we're going to just see what we think of their filings.
I love it when we do
together.
This sort of thing.
But to me, it's preposterous that these people, you see at the top, we're defunding Fox News. Join us here. They're encouraging people to, quote, become a checkmate. These are professional pains in the asses who, in the guise of charity, I don't mind if you want to do this for profit, but in the guise of charity, I challenge whether this is actually charitable or whether this is tax exempt nonprofit or whether this is a partisan political bullshit.
Yeah.
Because. And here we have to be somewhat careful, but stuff that we were, here's Nandini Jammy.
That's the team.
Right.
That's a small team.
Yeah, and how could this team assess what is true, what is false, pounce on stuff that they say is disinformation?
Well, they have a board of directors.
Who are
this guy looks like Shakespeare.
Zach Edwards. Who's Judy Shapiro?
I don't know. She looks like the head of the PTA committee.
Yeah.
And who's this? She looks like she might know Valerie Caproni.
Right. Well, but this is for the $400 billion surveillance advertising industry has operated with no oversight. So these rubes are going to. Who are these people?
What is the surveillance advertising industry?
Well, the idea that when you go online.
They are the surveillance. Oh, well,
no. They're saying the advertising industry has morphed into
surveillance.
Yeah, they when you go on the internet, they develop a profile of what you're looking at.
That's not the advertisers, though. That's Twitter.
Well, exactly. Yeah,
but they're not after Twitter. They're after the advertisers.
But this whole premise of disinformation is once you walk through that door, you just put the idiot sign on your back. Yeah. There is no such thing as disinformation. There is information of dubious quality. There is information of high quality. There is information that is dead wrong. That tends to be served up to us by the government, particularly if a war is involved. So this is the ad tech industry's, quote, only watchdogs. They're targeting Bannon, Tucker, Charlie Kirk.
The disinformation economy. They're the ones making money from the disinformation economy.
AOC, that moron, is following this thing.
So they literally think that Fox is trying to overthrow the government.
Again, the premise is absurd because when you look at, you tell me in traditional media how you want to define it. It's the the standard channels plus the cable channels plus some other things. That universe is 95% in theory left-leaning. I think it's more just insane. It's not not a right or left. Yeah, there you go.
How do you like Elmo in Hell? It is a good meme. Somebody just got a dirty Elmo toy, but yet this thing is one of the most famous items on the internet.
Nan Doodles, that's her name?
Who?
Nandini
Oh my
Jammy,
God.
Her thing is Nan Doodles.
These
What
people,
is the
Charles,
background of Nandini Jammy? What makes her so qualified?
She's the co-founder of CheckMyAss.com.
What is it linked to? What does LinkedIn say about her? I wonder where she probably went to Yale Law School for all we know.
Let's take a look. We'll do a little shallow dive on Nandy Jammy. She should have a pajama jammy jam party and invite Kid and Play.
1988, so she's 35 years old.
I don't care if Marvin Gaye is going to be at the party. She's an American activist.
All right, so Hyderabad, my Indian friend, actually a close Indian friend of mine who is from Hyderabad, says that city is high-tech.
Shaitoli?
Not Shaitoli, it's a high-tech, futuristic place now, but it is India's fraud capital.
Yeah.
That particular city is what she said. Okay, but where did she go? Here we go, it's up here. She is from Telugu, okay. She went to the University of Maryland. She attended college. This does not say she
didn't graduate.
Did she graduate?
Doesn't say she did.
Yeah. The University of Maryland. So amongst my movers and shaker Indian
Not the
friends,
best.
they look down their nose at Harvard.
Yes.
Right? I remember one of them said, I view Harvard as my safety school. I met these guys at Harvard Business School because to get into the top university in India, it's IIT, it's the various IITs, and they take a nationwide exam, and people brag about whether, 50 years after getting out of college, they're still telling you, I was number 4 out of, 400,000 or however many people sat for the exam when I took it. For this person to emigrate and go to the University of Maryland, scholarship is not her thing. So this person is going to be, I don't say that negatively. I actually have an ancestor who was the first president of the University of Maryland before it was called the University of Maryland. And I have a nephew who went to the University of Maryland who's a good guy and did well there. But for somebody with this background at age 35 to say she alone is going to think with her buddies,
right?
Who were like straight off the couch from Animal House, that team is going to decide in real time what is disinformation. Well, sounds to me like rubbish, trash, and bullshit, and we'll see what her filings look like on the 501c3 filings, because we're going to go into that in the
First Amendment forum. But Charles, did she not include information about her very prestigious certificate from Nassau Community College? Perhaps that qualifies her to...
Look at this. So Jamie visited Breitbart News, which I wrote for Breitbart.
She visited?
Yeah.
Oh.
And she writes a Medium post saying, don't advertise at Breitbart.
She visited. That's like saying, putting in my resume that I've been to Mount Rushmore. Who the hell cares?
So they managed to bring down the revenue of Breitbart.
Oh, good.
This is not charitable activity.
No.
This is bullshit.
No. This is totally... Oh.
Wait. Saying that Rivets had tried to she did this with a copywriter up here, it says. Where does it appear? Wrote a Medium post, she and Matt Rivets. Great names. Who just pushed for SoFi to stop running ads on Breitbart. They create this anonymous bullshit thing called Sleeping Giants, and he pushes her out.
Wow.
Saying Rivets had tried to downplay her role in the organization.
Oh.
And then she attacks her white male co-founder. This is a person with a gigantic chip on her shoulder. Who has, I think, way too much influence.
Now, Charles, I'm sorry to interrupt you while you are on a roll, but we're about to take this show on the, not the road, but to the First Amendment Forum here. All right. So anyway, we're about to go there.
All right.
And I was just trying to put a graphic up that wasn't cooperating, but people are going to be able to join us in 5 minutes on odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, and subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. For people who really enjoy these interactive deep dives, this is going to be a good one, Charles. And it's amazing. The weather thing was changing all day. We were trying to decide on a walk or staying in, and then it was raining, and now it's not, but we're staying in. Join us for this deep dive into these disinfo douchebags, and also more conversation about B-Rock. We didn't even get to. I want to share with people what the original title was supposed to be, and it was your idea, but I think it might have gotten us kicked off of YouTube. So we'll talk about that in the First Amendment Forum. We'll see everybody in 5 minutes. Thanks for tuning in.